In the middle of the desert, an old city is hidden that seems part of a story. It is the world's oldest skyscraper city. The city's skyline is dominated by hundreds of apartments, some as high as 11 stories. Imagine today's skyscrapers are made of concrete and steel, but this city is 2,000 years old and made only of clay. Now, the question is, who built this city? Why are the buildings so tall, and how did they accomplish all this 2,000 years ago? This is Yemen's unique city Shibam, which is also called an archaeological wonder. Welcome back to Tsame TV's videos, viewers. Seeing this ancient city for the first time, it's hard to believe that such an old city looks so modern. Even when comparing it to Manhattan, which is a part of New York, Shibam has its own uniqueness. This city is only 330 meters wide and 240 meters. That means it is as big as the apartments in modern cities. But Shibam's population is only 7,000 and its population density is quite high, meaning more people live in a very small area, and indeed compared to normal cities it is many years older. So ancient that people were building tower houses in Shibam during the Roman Empire era. But Shibam is not just special for that. Its environment makes it even more unique. In the entire region, people use mud bricks, but such tall buildings are only seen in Shibam. It is quite strange, but what is even more surprising is that despite having so much space around, why did they not expand this city sideways, only build it higher? Shibam is in Yemen, a place you might have only heard mentioned in news headlines.
Yemen hitting targets including the international airport and
airstrikes in Yemen's ports and energy infrastructure.
Houthi media said that multiple people were killed in the strikes.
Hadika's Yemeni port city.
But today, you are going to see a different side of this country. Shibam's story narrates the experiences of people living in harsh conditions here. A vibrant community facing more challenges, and this city itself is now in danger. But before we hear the story of the people of Shibam, a question that comes to mind is why there is a need to build a city in the middle of the desert. The answer to this question is hidden in the geography of Yemen. On Yemen's map, orange and red indicate the places where people live, but most of Yemen is uninhabited. Most people live in the western parts of the country, in the mountains where cities like Sana'a are, or on the coast in areas like Aden. The central part of the country is a large desert where hardly anyone lives, but in the cracks of a plateau you find human settlements. One such settlement is Shibam. These cracks have formed for a reason that is very essential for human life. Shibam is located in a valley of Hadramaut. A valley is essentially called a dry riverbed that remains dry most of the year, but during the rainy season, rivers flow through it, and this water is for drinking or farming. Can be used, and is also used for. Due to this water, Shibam became an ideal location for settlement near valleys in desert areas. Because of this water, Shibam also became an important part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site Network. The people living here trade spices and incense between India and Africa. Shibam is also mentioned in Greek sources, and it has been part of several kingdoms and empires. However, this was a new name for European explorers. In 1893, when Western travelers first visited here, from a distance they couldn't believe whether it was a rock or a mountain. But this was no rock, it was Shibam. Nearly 500 houses stand in a small place in the middle of the valley. European travelers compared the city of Shibam to Chicago. Perhaps because in 1885 a building in Chicago was counted among the world's first skyscrapers. A building constructed on a steel framework. But Shibam is quite different because instead of steel, mud was used. The people who settled here faced extremely difficult conditions. The weather here is often hotter than 40 degrees Celsius and there are no trees for shade. The desert stone is so hard that it can only be used for building foundations. That's why people here started relying on local materials. They would make clay mortar to form bricks that were dried in the sun. 16 workers could make 8,000 bricks in one day, and the houses built with these bricks have a lifespan of approximately 300 years. However, maintaining the city is a continuous process. The materials they use also influence the building design. The foundation was made stronger by keeping the base of the house wider. The walls at the bottom were kept up to 1 meter thick and at the top their thickness is only 30 centimeters thin. After placing the bricks, they are covered with a plaster of mud, but this was quite challenging for the upper floors. The upper parts of the buildings were covered with white lime plaster, which makes the top section waterproof and cool. In this desert, tall buildings were useful for keeping the walls cool. Due to being built close together, the sun's heat doesn't directly hit the walls, and the mud plaster acts like an insulator, preventing heat from coming in. Additionally, the reflective properties of white lime further reduce the heat. But the question is, why didn't they apply white lime plaster on the entire buildings? The straightforward answer is that lime was very expensive at that time, and that is why it became a status symbol. The most important buildings, such as mosques, were completely covered with white lime. But there are other ways to show status. The apartment blocks' doors are made of carved wood on which very beautiful designs can be seen. However, building such tall buildings has its own challenges. These homes do not have elevators, so how do people manage this? The people here see it as a sport. Going up and down 2 to 3 floors every day is normal for them, but for elderly people it can be quite difficult. And it's not just people. Heavy items and modern things also have to be carried upstairs. Today, the people of Shibam use refrigerators and air conditioning units. These items are hoisted up to the top by pulling them with a rope from the roof, because after the 4th floor the stairs become narrower. Each floor has a specific purpose here. The ground floor is for storage and shops, which used to be closed off due to the threat of wild animals. The first floor is used for animals, the second floor for men and guests. The third floor is the family area where kitchens are also made, and the top floors are used for sleeping. The real question still remains why such a tall city was built 2000 years ago when the surrounding desert was empty. In ancient times, people often settled on mountains or high places because one major reason was that they could be better protected from wild animals and enemy attacks. But when space is limited, you have to go upwards. According to archaeological excavations, people in this region were building 4-story houses 2000 years ago, but Shibam is still much taller than other cities. The Hadramot Valley was often targeted by invaders, which is why the houses here were built so close together that their walls served as the city wall. People wanted to expand the city horizontally, but there was very little empty space. For this reason, they decided to expand the city vertically in 700 AH, which is 1301. But why was there less space here? The answer is hidden in an event that happened 500 years ago, which changed Shibam forever. The two major floods in the years 1298 and 1532 destroyed large parts of the city. At the time, Shibam was surrounded by water, just like a peninsula. Those floods gave the city the shape we see today. Since then, the people here started building tall houses. This city was built by the same people who have been living here for centuries. Shibam is an example of human resilience where even amidst difficulties, people have built a unique city, but threats still exist for this peaceful and unique community. In 2008, a major cyclone approached Yemen, which also caused severe flooding. Some buildings in Shibam collapsed and many people lost their lives, but there could have been more damage if their houses had not been elevated. Another major threat to this city is the ongoing war in Yemen, which has primarily affected inflation. Nowadays, a laborer can barely afford to buy anything. And then there was the 2009 incident when a terrorist killed 4 South Koreans and their guide. Due to war and fear, tourism has completely ended here. Explosions have occurred inside and outside the city, which have left a bad impact on the local people. The tourism that was once the only source of income for many families here has now completely ended. But despite all these dangers, Shibam still stands and its people take pride in their city. They love their city so much that they praise it everywhere. The people here stand shoulder to shoulder and are quite social with their neighbors and friends. If a family is in trouble, the other families take care of them because they know they will also receive help when needed. They are so connected that some houses have common doors that reach up to the 3rd floor, meaning the elderly don't have to go downstairs to go from one house to another. Here, 3 to 4 families live together in the same house. When we see all this, we understand that this place is much more than news headlines. Shibam is a great example of human creativity. The people here are successfully living in a harsh region with limited resources and an unsuitable climate for humans. Even though in today's age concrete and steel could be used here, these people still keep the old traditions of their city alive. Hope you will also like and share this video from Zim TV fully. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next wonderful video.